to give a really long speech. It's just written in 46 font. So time keeps going by. Otherwise, I'd have Googled it in the front row for me. It is such a joy and a pleasure and of course a privilege to be here with all of you. I don't think I know everybody, but there's so many familiar faces, and how wonderful it is just to be greeted with hugs and see people in circles and feel as I'm coming home. I'm so delighted to celebrate the 20th anniversary of this symposium. And it's a milestone that coincides nearly to the day with my own 20 years of healing, of advocacy, and growth since the violent crimes of my first husband, Jason. And this makes it all the more special. It really does feel like coming full circle. The very first time I ever shared my story in Canada, other than in a victim impact statement in court, was at the symposium in 2008 when it was held in Kitchener. Was anyone there? Do you remember the snowstorm? Driving through the snowstorm, I will never forget, and I was just so nervous. It was only 6 months after Jason's sentencing and declaration as a dangerous offender. And I still carried a very heavy burden of grief, stigma, and shame. The V of victim still very much stood for vulnerable, violated, vilified, voiceless, and the target of vitriol. What would happen when I shared my voice on stage at this symposium? Would I be shunned? Would I be scrutinized again? How would I be judged? I had practiced every answer to the questions a journalist was set to ask me on stage, but I knew that the most important thing was just to speak from my heart. And my mom had reminded me, I'm sure many of you remember my mom, and she sends her very best. She had reminded me before this, she said, Shannon, your story is your story. You can't change it to make it easier on anyone. All I wanted, though, as I stepped onto that stage, was just not to be rejected. The time flew by in a blur, and soon I was stepping off the stage to warm and enthusiastic applause, which really felt like an invitation to belong from all of you. It was the first moment I felt the possibility of a brand new life ahead of me, one not controlled by trauma and violence, but rather shaped by it in a way that I could choose, and also by healing. You, the restorative justice community, opened your doors to me when almost every other door had closed. As the family member, the wife of a sex offender, nobody knew where I belonged, and it was a terrible title that I really didn't want to carry. I knew I was so much more than that. We are all so much more than the labels or titles we're given. You, the restorative justice community, in the symposium gave me a voice, and it was the beginning of a journey to transform all of those negative V's into positive ones. Validated, vindicated, vocal, vibrant, and victorious over trauma. I went home from that conference, that symposium, and I started to write. And 3 years later, my book, Through the Glass, was published, and I was given a voice right across the country, through the media and through many speaking engagements. I'll never forget the one that Angela hosted out in New Brunswick, where we had 200 people come out to listen and learn about restorative justice. I was just so honored. My book tour that year in 2008 ended at this symposium. That year it was in Kamloops. I gave a keynote speech and was rewarded and humbled by more than just applause. It was a standing ovation. And now I didn't only belong, but I was part of a movement. I felt safe, I felt secure, and I also felt joyful. I was scared too, but this time it wasn't because I feared rejection or judgment. It was because I was 10 weeks pregnant with twins, and I was standing up on the podium having already lost my waistline. And as I gave my speech, I could feel my pantyhose rolling down, down. And as you all clapped, I I shuffled off the stage. I'll do a demonstration. Someone like that, afraid that no one would notice, and we get to the bathroom and take them off. And in the bathroom, I ran into Manon Buck, who was also pregnant. And she confided, and she also had experienced something similar. We shared a huge laugh, and there was once again that sense of acceptance and belonging. And now here I am with you, all of you again, on the day of the anniversary edition launch of Through the Glass, 20 years after those crimes that changed my life, and at this 20th anniversary symposium, where we celebrate everything that we have built and become together. I'm so incredibly grateful. I know too that you are all reflecting. We all do that from time to time, and especially on anniversaries. That's what I've been doing too lately, especially last week, when I had the actual dates, the crime anniversary, the trauma anniversary. Many people have those. They often go unnoticed by others, but we never forget. And I've been reflecting on all the years since that very first trembling talk, and since my book first came out, and this privilege I've had of speaking all over the world and advocating for restorative justice in schools, communities, on the land, and in courtrooms, of supporting victims, people who have offended, and the families of both, and of walking alongside people on their private journeys for justice and healing, and people who are on journeys in the public eye. This has been a professional journey, and I've been uplifted and downtrodden, as I know you have been, but what we have chosen to do in restorative justice, or what has chosen us, is not easy. I've been hopeful and depressed. I've been elated and furious. I know you can all relate to this. But we have come so far. Still a long way to go, but we will get there together. And when I reflect on my personal 20-year journey, I know now that healing is non-linear. And Through the Glass, the original edition, I wrapped it up with what I thought was a nice, neat, happy ending. But life goes on. And it changes and it grows, and just because we've had one big hardship doesn't mean we're not going to get another one. And we are always learning, growing, and changing. I've offered forgiveness, I have retracted it, and I have re-offered it. I've stood tall with pride and confidence, and I've been on my knees. I've rejoiced, I have sobbed, I have loved and lost, and loved again. And what I've learned most profoundly is this, is that when good things happen, we tend to believe good things about ourselves. When bad things happen, we tend to believe bad things about ourselves. Like, I'm not in control, I'm powerless, I'm voiceless, I'm shameful, I don't belong. I'm a trauma therapist now in private practice, and this is what my clients come to me. No matter what's happened to them or what they have done to others. It's these bad beliefs that are formed in the worst moments of the worst parts of our lives. But healing, the real heart of restorative justice, is the transformation of those negative beliefs into positive ones, powerful ones, like, it's over, I'm safe now. I am a good person. I can speak up for myself. It's not my fault. I belong. And those beliefs aren't just words or even poetry. They are cellular. When we are living with PTSD, we don't just remember what happened, we relive it. Our bodies re-experience the danger through color, scents, sounds, tastes, and images. Our nervous systems are on fire, and sometimes the world feels way too unsafe to even go out. But by contrast, when we are supported professionally, socially, spiritually, physically, when our trauma is honored and treated, whether we perpetrated the harm or we harmed, something remarkable happens. Our bodies return to safety. Our beliefs return to truth. And PTSD becomes PTSG, post-traumatic supergrowth. I'm 50 years old, and when I look back at my 30-year-old self, I'm newlywed, in shock and grief. a high school counselor stripped of her job and made guilty by association, the homeowner with her sweet house surrounded by police tape and on the front page of the paper, I feel immense tenderness. I wish I could wrap my arms around her and reassure her that she was going to be okay, and one day she would be more than okay. I'd tell her that the forest fire she was fighting would one day die out, and that new growth would come, lush and astonishingly green. I'd tell her that she would find her voice again, that she would build a new community, big, bold, and beautiful, and that her dream of motherhood would come true, times 2. I would intervene in her trauma and dispel those bad beliefs that she was forming. I'm shameful. I don't belong. I'm not good enough. I have to be perfect. I have to help everyone. I would tell her, that 30-year-old Shannon, that trust is not a crime, and she never deserved to be punished. Mostly, I would tell her how proud I am of her. What would you tell a younger version of yourself? For everything that you have lived through and gone through, whether it's big T trauma, little T trauma, or just anything. And so this evening, as I stand here in this community that lifted me up, that put their arms around me when I needed it most, I want to tell you how proud I am of all of you. For everything you do, seen and unseen, to restore dignity, hope, and humanity in yourselves, in others, in your communities, and in this country. For the circles you hold, for the forest fires you fight, for the stories that you honor, for the harm that you tend to with courage and compassion, and for the belief, the radical belief, that people and relationships can change. And so, let's celebrate 20 years of this symposium. Will you celebrate with me 20 years of my own journey and 20 years of our collective effort to bring about a justice that is humane, complex, emotionally intelligent, practical, and deeply dignified. We also celebrate the deep roots that restorative justice holds here, the resistance and resilience of Indigenous peoples, and the principles and practices that create space for truth-telling and reconciliation to ourselves, to each other, and to the land, and that these have existed for many, many, many more decades and fathoms than 20 years. And so tonight, I invite you to raise a glass, not of wine, but of water at this moment, for its clarity and its ability to cleanse and to refresh. I don't know, I forgot my water. So go ahead. Please raise your beautiful glass of clear water to the past that shaped us, thank you so much, to the future that we are building, and to the community that carries us through, to restorative justice in all its courage and its complexity, to growth after harm, and to healing. Thank you so much. Cheers. Merci. Chinegwich.